This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. We're coming at you from our new updated studio space.
Our own updated studio space. It's ours. No one can frickin' take it.
So we're super stoked to be here. We're excited to give you guys more consistent content. Now that we have our own space, we don't have to rely on anyone. And I don't know if you guys knew, but we were recording in your garage before.
Yep.
A lot of things have changed since then. You have added another member to the family.
Yep.
And it's probably best that we're not there to interrupt that.
I know. Well, now we just have like a rad space. We put all our awesome sound panels up that were done by Michael Paquette, who was on a little bit ago. He took a little forever to make them. So, Michael, thanks, dude. It's not like you got married and are on a honeymoon. But thanks for taking forever. I'm just kidding. We're super thankful for you.
It is hot in here, man. My arm's just big.
I mean, it's not that hot, but it's hot.
Maybe I drank too much coffee.
That's true. He did pound a coffee before this. But we're stoked. This is our space. You can't see it, but I mean, we got lighting, we got rugs, tables, chairs, sound panels. We're pretty much official, like super good. Official.
Now we need to get sponsors.
Sponsors, are you listening? We need you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just super grateful to have this space, and it feels like, especially now that we're on YouTube, you guys can kind of grow with us and see some of the small changes we're making and the growth that we're making. But talking about that on today's episode, I wanted to go over not necessarily finding your passion, but maybe the journey of finding it, and how sometimes it's okay not to know exactly like what you have to do and what your purpose is. And I was talking to my wife the other night, and it was really cool because I kind of just came up with it off the top of my head. And I was like, ask yourself, like, what are you passionate about and what's your skill set? And the third question you should ask is if there's a way to monetize that.
Yeah.
So like I know that I love helping people. I love being around people. I'm very social. I love helping people in any way that I can from my life experiences. That's why I coach.
Yeah.
That's why I started the podcast, is because I felt like if people can hear someone else's story and maybe relate to it and be like, oh wow, they're superstars, or they're an NFL player, or they're an MMA fighter, but their struggles are just like mine, and this is how they got over it. I think it's a good thing. For me personally, I can probably say that I still haven't found my purpose. I just know that I'm living my life and trying to help others and seeing if there's ways to monetize that. Where would you say you are in your journey with that?
I kind of like to touch on that. What you're just saying is, I think we live in a world right now where it seems, because of social media, it seems like everyone has their purpose, right? Their careers, or social media makes everything seem so much better than in what reality sometimes can be.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's important to remember, like, it doesn't matter if you're doing what you thought you were going to be doing right at this moment. It's at least being able to capture what you had set out to do and try to just make little steps to do it. But it's so hard not to get caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, oh man, I saw this guy on Instagram. He's 30 years old. He's got X, Y, and Z. Well, it's like, well, that's great for him. Maybe I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll never be there. And that doesn't matter. It's kind of like you said, kind of figuring out what it is that makes you tick, I guess. But just, I think the important thing is just not letting yourself get caught up in comparison to social media. Like, I love the memes where it's like social media versus reality, right? Well, I mean, if you're not being realistic, most people don't live the way they say they live on social media. And it's hard, dude. I want to teach my kids, like, don't be living in your phone or whatever technology is going to come out. But always remember to be more present.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I have no clue what my end purpose is going to be. I mean, I've been in business for 11 years now. We have a couple kids. I know 1,000% I want to be present for my family.
Yeah.
And so whatever I got to do to make that happen is what I want to do. So
have you ever struggled with that balance? Like, now you have a growing family. You know that you have to give 110% to your business for it to be successful, but you also have to give 110% to your family.
Yeah.
And because realistically, that's gonna be your lasting legacy.
Yeah.
Is gonna be your family, you know, and if you do it right, the right way, quote unquote, you know, is like, I love it when I hear people say, like, oh, your son, he spent the night at my house, he's so well behaved, because I'm like, when he's at home, he's nuts. So I'm glad that we've been able to instill these principles, just super basic things like being nice, holding the door open for people, saying please and thank you. Not to say that's a direct reflection of how he's being raised, but we definitely have made an effort to show him that, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, the balance is always crazy. Like, I'm coaching high school football right now. He's a freshman. Well, part of the biggest reason why I'm staying is because I want to see his progression. Mm-hmm. Now that he's a freshman, I'm like, oh, cool, I get to coach for at least another 4 years.
Yeah.
And be with him and hang out with him. I don't know how that's affecting my girls at home, because I go to work in the mornings and then I have to go to football. So for me, I'm always questioning it. I'm always like, man, there's a balance there that I'm probably not great at. But I also had a family fairly young. You know, I had my son when I was 18, right out of high school. And so my mind had to shift from like me, and I wasn't the best at it, especially the first couple of years. I was still, 18, 19, 20, thinking about myself and the things I wanted and my dreams and what I need to accomplish. So how do you deal with kind of that life balance, I guess?
Honestly, man, I don't really have like the secret sauce.
Yeah.
But I think just being, I know it sounds cheesy and lame, but being really intentional with my time and guarding it. Like, I've guarded it with you, and it's not in a bad way. It's I know what's important to me. Like, obviously business, all the extracurriculars, it's all important, but being present for my family is like my top priority. So if that means I have to sacrifice going to jiu-jitsu at night because I want to spend time with my family before they go to bed, or if that forces me to go to jiu-jitsu at 6 a.m., that way I'm there when they're awake. Whatever the case may be, it's just being real intentional. And obviously it's super hard, which actually that reminded me, I know it's something, but we had one of our listeners send us this, remember from the last one? I want to find it. It had something to do with what we had talked about on one of our episodes of being intentional and being there, which obviously is difficult sometimes, but I think it's just making that decision to do it and to truly kind of.
Now, do you set like a schedule for that? And are you intentional with that? Because I think it's very easy. Like, I've set schedules before on like Google Calendar, and I'm like, that's something I have to get done, but is it super important right now? Like, probably not. We did a really cool, I guess, practice at work where it was like a square with 4 squares in it. So imagine this graph, and on one side, on the left side, it was important. On the top, it was urgent.
Yeah.
Then at the bottom, it was not important and not urgent. So now you can put these things that are maybe important in this corner, but they're not urgent. Like, they're important, they need to get done, but you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah. Well, so, I pretty much, I always tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm not like a neurosurgeon. I'm not a heart surgeon.
Yeah.
I'll joke around with her because sometimes she gets caught up in working because she wants to hustle for our family, right? And I'll look over just like teasing her, because she used to tease me like years ago about being on my phone. And I'm like, Dev, I'm working. And she's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And now that she'll get caught up in it sometimes, I'll be like, hey, Devin, I didn't realize you're a heart surgeon. Like, is your patient going to be okay? Like, just joking around. She's like,
sure.
yeah, I gotcha. But yeah, setting priorities, obviously, I'm not going to blow off something that's super important, right? Like when our warehouse flooded, like it was a holiday. Obviously, I dropped everything I was doing and I came to the warehouse because it was flooded. So I'm not saying, obviously, I'm going to blow stuff like that off, but little things and almost more of like my own desires, whether it's like going to the gym. Well, I know if I don't go to the gym at a certain time, I'm going to sacrifice that time. That way I can be present for dinner or whatever, But it reminded me of this. One of our listeners owns a ranch out in Oklahoma, and it was talking about one of our episodes, and he said, I can totally relate to what you were talking about on the podcast about being a parent that is actively involved with your kids. After putting in a 12-hour or so day, sometimes I have to really push myself to help my wife get my kids ready for bed and to play with him. And there's days I would obviously love to just come in, sit down, be a couch potato. And he says, but I can do that after he's in bed. And it's not always easy, but it's so rewarding. Yeah. And he sent that to us after we had talked about it. And it's kind of exactly what we're talking about now is just being present and making that choice. It's hard. Yeah. But everything in life is hard, right? And I think it relates back to finding what your quote unquote purpose is for your life. It's not going to always be the same thing. It's going to change. There's going to be tough decisions that need to be made, and if you don't make them, you're never going to get to where you're at, right? Unless somebody just hands it to you on a silver platter, but then you didn't necessarily earn that. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, man, there's no secret sauce. I mean, I drink a crap ton of coffee. That helps.
Does it still work for you?
Honestly, not as much. So I had to switch it up. I drink a lot of tea now.
Oh,
so I'll do a
fancy.
couple coffees, couple teas.
Yeah.
And then I'll also have some, like, I don't know, pre-workouts sometimes to, like, get me going. But, no, man, my family and knowing that I want to be there is what honestly drives me. In everything I do, with business, with our podcast, with being a dad, being a husband, it's knowing what I want to be for them is what really gets me going. It's what gives me the ability to bite my tongue sometimes, or to, not with my kids, or with kids, with my wife, with work, with whatever, it makes me who I want to be. So doing those things I got to do to get there.
How are ways that you maybe invest in yourself doing that?
Honestly, for me, it's like if I don't find time to, whether it's going to the gym and exercising, whether it's playing hockey or boxing or doing jiu-jitsu, whatever, if I don't find that time to almost have like that mental relaxation, that release,
an outlet,
my own outlet. Some people it's coaching football or I don't know, a hobby of some sort. For me, it's like I just need that time to reset, get the blood pumping, obviously release endorphins and stuff like that. Like I don't live in the gym, but that's something I've also had to sacrifice, is like my gym / training time. So just being intentional with that, that's kind of like my one release. And then honestly, just like my faith in knowing like sometimes things are out of my control, and fully believing that,
but then being okay with it.
And it's like being okay with it. I think I've learned that over the years, like putting my pride aside. Dude, it's right. It's
I haven't. Not all the way. I think because sometimes you feel like, no, like God put this on my heart. Like this is what I have to do. Yeah. And it's not, and it sucks when it's not true. Like for Bellator, like I thought I was going to make money as a professional fighter. Yeah. I was like, man, I signed with this big organization. I'm on TV. Like the money's just going to come rolling in. Yeah. And this is how I'm going to provide for my family, like doing what I love. And it didn't. But it did help me build relationships that I still have to this day. Yeah. A lot of the guests that we've had in the past are because of fighting. And it's given me the ability to be around people that have been really successful in athletics, that have been really successful in business, and knowing, like, learning from their mistakes. Yeah. Because sometimes I see a lot of people, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but Mark Munoz was one of the guys at the time when he had the gym and he was fighting and he was coaching, and he was a business owner. He was spread so thin because he would go out and he practiced, he coached, he did anti-bullying campaigns, he went to go speak, and it's like the whole time he was still a dad, he was still a husband, he was still a teammate. It's like, how do you do all that? You know, being a guy like that that talks the talk and walks the walk with his faith. It's like, bro, like how do you do that without falling or like spiraling down this hole?
Yeah.
You know? I think that's one of my biggest mistakes right now is like I'm working, I'm doing the podcast, I'm coaching. Well, doing those things are great, but they're taken away from being a husband, from being a father, being an intentional father, and being there with my girls. And I love that. I think you have to, like, just that comment. I'm like, whoa, like that's a keeping myself in check. Where I'm like, when I get home, like last night we had a late practice. I didn't get home until 8:30. It's like I shouldn't just go and take a dump and go take a shower. Like I need to go help my wife. She's been with the kids all day. She's been at home all day. I need to go help her change the girls into their PJs. I need to help her put the dishes away or read a story to the girls, you know, and that's something that I'm not great at. But hearing those type of stories, I'm like, wow, I have to really challenge myself to not be so damn lazy, because it's like you don't get anywhere in life being lazy. Just because I put in the work and other things and energy, that doesn't justify me not putting in the work at home.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I mean, it's impossible to do that all the time, obviously, but I don't know. I there's obviously not a way to be able to be like, hey guys, do these steps and you're going to be the best dad ever. You're going to be the best husband. But I think it's just at least you're people that can actually look at themselves in that way and realize what they need to do to fix something is huge, because I don't think a lot of people can realize that. Like I know for me, like sometimes I'm there physically, but I'm not present, right? Yeah. And so it's comments like that, or it's talking like this in settings like this, or even just talking to my wife when we're over a cup of coffee or at dinner or something like that, and it's like, oh, I was here, but I wasn't here. You know, and it's like,
remember what we talked about.
Yeah, and it's
have you made that a priority now? Like, because I'm sure that you guys obviously had way more time to hang out with each other before the kids were here. Have you made that a priority to like spend time with Devin and be like, hey, look, we're gonna have a cup of coffee, or because like the other day I have 3 kids and so we don't have time, and that's maybe a false statement, but like Ash came, my wife. We went on a lunch date the other day, and it was so refreshing to just sit down and talk to her and hang out and be like, hey, look, this is what's going on.
We try to have early mornings, you know, whether it's like a cup of coffee or we eat breakfast real quick before the kids get up, or before our daughter got up. Now, like having a newborn, obviously he's up all the time and like sporadically. Yeah. But we try to have the mornings together where we kind of are just together. Either we use it to, you know, like kind of like read or do like a Bible study, even just being there, but not even necessarily having to talk, because we're like each doing our own thing, but we're doing it together. Yeah. I do think we need to be more intentional with always setting aside time for us. But you know, it's always stuff that you can work on. But we do try to have that time together. But man, it's just a constant, you know, it's a constant hustle and a grind, and just trying to figure things out. That's all that's important, is just trying to figure it out and trying to continually work on things like we're doing with our podcast, trying to constantly get better. You know, I think people that get stuck in the mindset of, no, everything is how it's supposed to be, it can't get better. Well, that's not true. It can always get better. You can always work on something. You can always fix it. You can always adapt. You can always change.
Or worse.
Exactly. Or you can go the backside of that and be in a spiral.
Sure.
But, man, I think just if you don't know what it is that makes you tick, so to speak, or you don't know where you're supposed to be at, or you don't know where you want to go, I don't think any of that matters, as long as you try to figure it out and be honest with yourself.
Yeah, even your skill set. That's why when I was thinking about that question that I asked my wife, I go, look, like, mainly find out what you're passionate about. You know, because even your skill set, you can develop anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to build websites. I taught myself. I learned from people, and now I know how to build a website. You know, it's awesome. Like I'm sure you didn't have all this experience like brewing coffee and being this awesome businessman. So you learned but you went through the journey.
Yeah.
You know, you decided to step out and say, hey, look, I'm going to go do this. And there's failures in between. And I think people are so scared of messing up or scared of failing, you know, maybe from pressure from family or friends or even themselves, like you were talking about earlier, comparing.
Yeah.
It's like you can't do that because you're never going to succeed if you don't try.
Yep.
Like if you never take that first step, you're never going to know. And maybe I'm an idiot, but like I love trying new things. I'm like, well, let's go try it. Well, it's like even setting up the studio, I was like, hey, yeah, well, let's do it. Let's get better. Why? Because if we fail, we'll learn from it.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be things that maybe we don't. Like right now we're trying to figure out whether we need a third chair here for a guest or if we need a love seat. And it's like, okay, I really wanted a love seat. But it's like, well, that's probably not possible right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, being okay with that is what I think makes you better.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay, well, why? Okay, now I'm motivated to put out good content, find sponsors, so we can go get a bigger space.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to happen in 2 weeks.
I'd say it doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah, no. We can build up to
Joe
it.
Schmo's podcast has it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. It's our journey. It's our podcast. And I think falling in love with the process.
Yeah.
And like the journey and then growing throughout that, I think that's where people need to embrace that. Like we were talking about last time, is that people always want the end goal. They always want the solution.
Yeah.
Where here's the target. Well, but how do you get there?
Yeah.
You don't start here and then go there. You start way back here.
I know.
And you have to go through all these ups and downs. And I think, well, to your point, social media has made that very, very almost like dreamy. Like there's all these guys.
It's always a fantasy.
You know, leave your job. You're making someone else's dream come true. Well, it's like, okay, well, great, but what do I need to do? What paperwork do I need to file? Who do I need to pay? How do you start it? How do you get a first client? Like you just don't go do things.
I know. You see like on social media. Oh, do you spend 2 to 3 hours a day on social media? You want to make $4,000 a month? Sign up here. And it's like, but you have to pay me $1,200 to teach you, and it's not guaranteed. But you know, I mean, it's crazy.
I just don't get. That's why I love how like transparent we are with each other, with the listeners, is because I think there's a lot of value in that, and there's stories that you have that we're gonna get into more and more as the show progresses. Yeah, you know, with your journey and my journey and guests, and I think it's a special time to be able to talk, you know, and give ourselves a platform.
Kind of like what we were saying a few days ago. We were texting back and forth saying like, not that we were burnt out with the podcast, but it was also like one of those, an added stressor to your busy life already, right? But now we're both in a position where like we're in a new space. We got like basic little things that we're pumped about, but we both were like texting the other night. We were talking about how like we're super pumped and motivated, like almost like, you know, like someone pushed us and now we want to like carry that momentum with us. Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool, you know.
Well, it's easier when you have someone else, because now, like, it was late and you were texting me and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then you sent me videos and I was like, whoa. Yeah. Like I saw how excited you were and I was like, yeah, like let's get it. And I think it's good. It's just like any other relationship, you know, you kind of, you lean on the other person and oh man, if they're excited, I got to match that excitement because.
Well, it's accountability and trying to meet the excitement, I guess. Yeah, no,
it's rad, man. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to touch on?
Honestly, no. I'm just excited to get back on. We're gonna start, you know, having guests obviously come back in now that we're ready and set up. Yeah. So I'm just excited to get people in here, let them share their story, give them that platform so we can be a resource to our listeners. But you know, I'm just excited to get it going again. So those are my final thoughts.
I say way too much.
It's better than saying like that's cool. Like
one more thing before we sign out. If you guys have any questions for us or anything you guys want to talk about specifically, please DM us on the podcast social media accounts,
Yes.
or our personal accounts. Be like, hey man, can you touch on this, or share a story about this, or whatever. And just to remind you guys, the coffee mugs, they're still for sale, and the t-shirts are on sale as well. We'll post prices and things like that, but yeah, I think I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked to see where this goes and the things we do with it.
Same.
And so always a pleasure.
My man.
And remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it. So, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Fight Within Podcast. Find us on all audio platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you guys like to listen to it. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for continuing to listen to it and watch it. We can see the growth on our analytics, and just want to thank you guys for supporting us. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kingdom Nutrition. Make sure you guys go and visit their site over at kingdomnutrition.com and enter promo code MFW10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Kingdom Nutrition carries the best sports supplements on the market. They manufacture and curate their own line of supplements with the highest quality ingredients, including a lean protein, weight gainer protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and an array of other products. They've recently created the world's first vegan chickpea protein, and it tastes amazing. I'm a big dude. I like food, and I like chocolate. So when they told me it comes in chocolate and vanilla, I got really happy. But if you're a workout enthusiast and you want to change up your diet, change up your protein, go check out their vanilla chickpea protein. It mixes well with anything. It'll blend great with a smoothie. So to get your hands on any of these products, just make sure and go visit kingdomnutrition.com. Remember to enter promo code MFW10 and get 10% off your next purchase. Let's go.